All right, so boom, you want to get better with Steve. I feel you. I do too. But this is gonna be the start. This is gonna be the ground, the base of how to get better with this character. And we're gonna start by talking about his neutral. And what neutral is in a fighting game is when both of you are just sitting here doing nothing. You're just both moving around and no one's really making any moves. So that's what we're gonna be talking about with Steve. And in this game, Steve's neutral isn't. I don't think it's bad. A lot of people think it's bad, but I don't think it's bad because of how safe Steve is. Steve is the safest character in the history of Tekken. So it's really important to utilize that and really capitalize on just how safe he can be. You want to frustrate your opponent with how safe you are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the 10 most used moves by me. Yes, me. And I'm going to basically do a quick rundown of why I use these moves and how strong they are. So the first move that I use all the time is quarter circle forward one. It is a extremely long range, and in this game you want to be able to reach your opponent if you're a boxer, because Steve's problems in this game is not so much tracking anymore as it was in 7, but now it's reaching your opponent. So it's really good to have a really long range, safe if you go in the flicker by holding back, mid that tracks to his left side. The only way your opponent is gonna step this move is if you're right in your opponent's face, and at the very moment you input quarter circle forward, they start stepping. That's the only way. So why do we want to use this move? We want to use this move to stop our opponent from moving so much. Now, granted, it does not track to Steve's right. So if they're stepping you to the right, that's when we use different moves that I will talk about later. But this move, your opponent almost just has to block it to counter it. It's a heat engager as well, which means if it catches them in heat, it's a launcher if you heat dash out of it. That is extremely good. So this is one of those moves that you want to throw out all the time. Like, you should be itching to throw this move out whenever you can. On to the next move. The next move I have is running 2, or while running 2. Now this move is pretty risky because unlike the rocket punch, that's what quarter circle 401 is called, running 2 does not track anywhere. It doesn't track anywhere, like absolutely anywhere. So why is it that I use this move so much? Well, you see what happens to Steve, poor old Steve, when he blocks this move? He's almost on his knees, like praying to God that you don't use this move again. It's +6 on block. That's pretty damn good. And it also does chip damage, which in this game, doing damage by blocking, that's pretty damn good. You can't go wrong with that. It does come out pretty fast, so if your opponent is constantly moving around, I wouldn't recommend using it. But if they're just kind of walking in a straight line back and forth playing Street Fighter, feel free to use this. But do be wary of your opponent jabbing, because I can't tell you how many times I've done running 2 and people have just jabbed me out of it. But regardless, it's another heat engager. You can tell from the effect on his hands and the noise that it makes when it's blocked. Which also means it's a launcher in heat if you heat dash out of it. And on to the third move. The third move I have is up back 2. I use this move so much because rocket punch is really good for catching people stepping, but they're never gonna sidestep this. It is impossible. It is utterly impossible. And there are times where people have sidestepped Rocket Punch. They're never gonna sidestep this. So this is your main homing move. Now, there is 2 different variations of this move. Both of them are +3 on block, but one of them goes into Lionheart, and the other one you just hold back after inputting up back 2, and you go right back to neutral. I would recommend doing up back 2 into holding back more than you do more than you go into Lionheart, because if they get hit by this move, it guarantees Sonic Fang. That does 38 damage. As opposed to just doing up back 2 into Lionheart 1, that does 34 damage. So it's kind of always better to go out of it. And plus, if your opponent just so happens to duck this move and you cancel it, it's kind of rare, but there is a chance that they could miss their punish on you. If they duck this while you're in Lionheart, you cannot block. You have to sway or do something out of it. So that's just an unnecessary mind game that you're putting on yourself for no apparent reason. So this is your main homing move with the trail around it, and it is very good. On to the next move. I have 1-2-1. This is probably the move that I use the most. It's a high string. On counter hit, it's all guaranteed for 31 damage. Why is this move so strong? Okay, so you can do, I need you to follow me here. You can do a 4th hit, 1-2-1-2, which is a mid. It's -10, but you can cancel it by doing a forward duck. You can cancel it by doing a side duck. You can cancel it by doing a left weave, and you can cancel it by doing a back sway. You can cancel it into almost anything. You can even cancel the first 2 hits into whatever you want. You can cancel the fuck out of this move. And to mix your opponent up, I wouldn't recommend throwing this out all the time, but you have 1-2-1 down 2, if I can do it. 1-2-1 down 2. This move is pretty reactable, but it's not bad to throw out once in a while, because people love to mash after they block for so long, because with Steve, you do want your opponent to block forever. So if they mash, the low knocks down on counter hit, which is pretty good. It's pretty damn good. Why else is 1-2-1 strong? Your opponent's gonna have a really hard time stepping it, because it tracks so well. It almost realigns with them. You can do 1-2-1 into just back to neutral, just 1-2-1 into nothing, and you can even go 1-2-1 into peekaboo by holding forward, and you can do 1-2-1 into flicker by holding back. There are so many different ways you can use this string, and in my opinion, it is probably a top 5 string in the game. It is really, really good, and all of it is safe. All of it is safe. If you do 1-2-1-2 into a forward duck, you can cancel it by holding down back. So 1-2-1-2, forward 3 into holding down back. Get used to doing that, because it is going to be very, very helpful. And another reason why 1-2-1 is so strong is because Steve does not have the best jab. It's not completely terrible, but he doesn't have the best jab. So to have a quick string, a quick string to fall back on when your first jab whiffs, it helps out so much. It helps out so much. The next move that I want to talk about is Flicker 2. We're introducing a stance now. You go on the flicker by holding, not holding, you go on the flicker by pressing back 3+4 and you can do fancy stuff like canceling it with down back, or you can even cancel it by pressing forward, which I didn't even know was possible until this game. But anyway, Flicker's standing 2, does chip damage. I think it does like 6 chip damage, something like that. It is a counter hit launcher, and it's not like one of those weak counter hit launchers. It does 25 damage on counter hit. That is pretty damn good. And it has really good range. Like it almost hits as far as Rocket Punch. Like it catches me off guard sometimes. And what's really good about this move is you can use it when your opponent is on the ground. It doesn't hit completely grounded, but if you catch them side rolling or back rolling or forward rolling, this will catch them. This will catch them almost every time. So this move is really good. Holy voice crack. But this move is really good. And it's safe. It's -5. And it's a mid. You can't ask for more than that. It has kind of inconsistent tracking, but other than that, it is pretty good. The 5th move that I'm going to be talking about is Peekaboo down 1, aka full crouch down forward 1. It's the same exact fucking move. This move is -12 on block, and it's +2 on hit, and +2 on counter hit. The range on it is pretty good for a low. You can't complain about the range. And the tracking is also really good, which, if you combine that with its high crushing properties, you have a high crushing, almost homing low. That's plus on block, or not on block, that's plus on hit. This low is really good. In my opinion, this is Steve's best low. And it's kind of fast. So you can mix this with, you can do Rocket Punch from crouch. You could just kind of do down forward and then into forward 1, just to make it easier. You can mix it with rising 1 if you don't want to do Rocket Punch. And yeah, it's a pretty good mix. Why do we want to use this move? Well, like I said, it high crushes, so that's really important. And when you're in Peekaboo, you're kind of revolving around a lot of highs and mids. So doing Peekaboo down 2 isn't exactly good if it's your only low option. So to take a much less risk, or a much safer, to just do a safer option, just throw out Peekaboo down 1. Throw it out a lot. Because Steve revolves around so many highs and mids, your opponent is only going to duck you if you're doing a lot of highs. So if you incorporate a lot of lows, that makes your mids even stronger, which you kind of want to land your mids all the time. So this move is going to stress your opponent out. It doesn't do that much damage, but it's kind of just like a mosquito. Like, it's just always in your fucking face. Like, yeah, there's a poke. Yeah, there's a little poke. Ah, I'm hitting your leg. Ah, there's your ankle. Ah, your knee is next. Like, it's fucking annoying to get hit with all game. And that's the point. You want to annoy the fuck out of your opponent when you're playing Steve. And this is probably the perfect move to do it. And on the topic of lows, the next move I'm going to talk about is quarter circle forward 2. Kind of a clunky input, but with a bit of practice, you can get this very consistently. As you can see, I messed it up somehow. I know a lot of Steve players are kind of looking at me like, what the fuck, you trying to sabotage the community? Nah, it's not sabotage. This low is actually pretty decent. If we're comparing this low to all of Steve's lows, the trade-off with Steve's lows are, if it's reactable, it does damage. And if it's not reactable, it doesn't do any damage at all. Down 2-1 does not do any damage. Down 1 does not do any damage, but you're not going to react to those lows. Down back 2 and Peekaboo down 2 are unfathomably reactable. But they do a lot of damage, and they do something on counter hit. So it's not bad to throw them out once in a while, but you cannot rely on these lows all the time. This low is right in the dead center of them, where it's not extremely reactable, but it's not incredibly slow, or it's not incredibly fast. It doesn't do a crazy amount of damage, but it gives you something. It gives you more than down 2, it gives you more than peekaboo down 1, and it has really good range. So why don't we just throw this move out all the time then? It's minus 18 on block. Minus 18. Steve is launch punishing this low. I don't understand why, because like peekaboo down 2, it only, or peekaboo down 1, it only gives you +2 on normal hit and counter hit. And unlike peekaboo down 1, this move doesn't track anywhere. So I don't understand why it's launch punishable. But other than that, it's not a bad low. Like it's not a Jin down back 4 or a Kazuya down back 4. But it's usable. It's really usable if you want to get some damage from a low. And you can also go into peekaboo by holding forward, which being in peekaboo is always put me in peekaboo all day long. And the next move I'm gonna mention, I don't even know if I have to mention it, the world-renowned back 1. Everyone is afraid of this move. I used to think not, but people who are afraid of Steve aren't afraid of Steve, they're afraid of back 1. Because they are so scared of getting counter hit. Counter hit launched at that. Now this move is minus 14 without going into flicker by holding back. If you go into flicker, it's minus 1. So if you want, you can continue your flicker pressure, or you can cancel it with a duck. And I do this all the time. You can do this into rising 1. I do this because it's high mid, and you can see it comes out really fast. Now, what other utilities does back 1 have? Because it's not just a minus 1 13 frame high counter hit launcher. Back 1 is a complete string. You can just do back 1. You can do back 1-2, which they can duck this second hit. So on top of that, even if they don't mean to duck the second hit, Steve has down, oh my god, Steve has back 1 down 2-1. English is hard, I know, work with me. You have back 1 down 2-1. They can low parry the second hit. It's not bad to do once in a while, but if you do it all the time, eventually you're gonna get low parried, and being low parried is never fun. So what option do we have to stop them from ducking after blocking back 1? You have back 1, 2-1. I'm so glad they gave him this option. No, don't approach me, get away from me. Because this move counter hit launches. So, in a world where they duck back 1-2, it's a mix-up because you can cancel it into a counter hit launching mid, and this does a good amount of damage on counter hit. I can't say that. Oh, and also another thing I forgot to mention: you can cancel up back 2 and do just the mid by itself. You do up back 2-1. Gotta be kind of quick, but not like it's not like frame perfect or anything. Like you have a bit of time to do it. Back 1 has way more utility than just being this monster counter hit launcher. But it is nerfed because, as you can see on counter hit, just back 1 alone launches. But if you commit to the string, you can see it doesn't launch. And it got nerfed even more from 7 because you used to be able to delay options. You used to be able to delay back one, down two, one, or delay back one, two. You can't do that anymore. You have to fully commit to what option you want to do. That's a nerf, and I don't like it, but I'm not going to complain about it. Other than that, back one is probably his strongest move. The next move I'm going to talk about, probably his longest range tool, and it's Albatross 2. You do Albatross by doing 3+4. You just press 2, and you have a full screen heat engager. And yes, you guessed it, because it's a heat engager, it is a launcher if you heat dash. Now, I have very mixed feelings about this move, because in Tekken 7, this move used to have kind of bad tracking. I used to mix Rocket Punch with Albatross too, because like I said, Rocket Punch does not track to Steve's right. This move tracked to Steve's right in 7. But in Tekken 8, this move doesn't track anywhere. It's just like running 2. It does not track anywhere. So why do we want to use this move? Well, it's safe, as usual. You're playing the safest character in the game. It's a safe mid. I cannot express to you how long the range is. It has a bit of pushback, so you don't have to worry about your opponent just completely bum rushing you after. Like they're gonna have to do a predictable run in, and by that time you can step them. You can even do Albatross 2 in the back one. A lot of Steves do this, including me. I do this occasionally because people just love mashing. You know, people don't want to block. People think, all right, I'm gonna block one move, bam, my turn. No, you're gonna get knocked the fuck out. Get away from me. And you can also do a low, which is Albatross down 2. It's the same low as down back 2. It knocks down on counter hit. It's somewhat reactable. I have a hard time reacting to it in game. But yeah, this low is -12. And you can somewhat mix this. This can somewhat be your mix up. But the really good portion of Steve is his whiff punishment. There's a misconception with Steve that all of Steve's punishment is bad. That's not true. Steve's block punishment is bad. Steve's whiff punishment is pretty damn good because of this move and because of Sonic Fang. Now, I have Sonic Fang as an honorable mention because although, like, look at how far this move, like, look at this. It's almost a god move. This move is unsafe at -12. It is a heat engager, and you do want to punish with this. But I find it easier to stay safe and do this. Even if you mess up the punish, this is going to be a lot more consistent in really applying how safe Steve is. The last move that I have is just a good old down forward 1. You can do down forward 1-2. You can do down forward 1-2-1. And if your opponent is constantly ducking both of these options, because they can duck the second hit because they are both highs, he has down forward 1-2-2, which is a -10 mid that knocks down on normal hit for a follow-up. So, hold on, get away from me. So, yes. Not bad to throw out once in a while, but it is unsafe, so don't use it all the time. And what else makes his down forward 1 extremely strong? You can do duck cancels and back sways. So you can pressure with his down forward 1. You can cancel the duck into your while standing options. This is really fucking good because the ducks crush highs. Believe it or not, I know I have a hard time believing it, but these forward ducks crush highs. So if they want to jab or they want to throw out a high or something, you can just cancel the duck and punish them. Steve has almost limitless utility with his cancelable strings. So, a quick rundown, an even quicker rundown, because this kind of wasn't a quick rundown, but his best move, quarter circle forward 1, tracks to Steve's left, heat engager, mid, infinite range, safe if you hold back. Running 2, does not track for the love of God. Launcher in heat if you heat dash, which also means it's a heat engager. +6, so that's really good. Long range, really long range, but be careful of getting jabbed out of it. Your main homing tool, up back 2. Remember, you can cancel up back 2 into the mid counter hit launcher, which is safe, by the way. It is -8. You can go into Lionheart and do Lionheart 1 if you want to completely stop them from moving. Or you can just cancel it and just wait a second. And on hit, this is guaranteed. Get used to doing this. This is the optimal... That's the optimal route for when this move hits. 1-2-1. There's no real way to do a quick rundown of this move. You can, like, this move just does everything. It's unbelievable the utility 1-2-1 has. Flicker standing 2. I'll just call it flicker 2. Really long range, almost hits grounded. Chip damage on block. Counter hit launcher, and it's a big counter hit launcher. Cannot go wrong with this attack at all. We have our 2 lows, our main 2 lows. Peekaboo down 1. AKA full crouch down for 1. It is the same fucking move, believe it or not. And quarter circle forward 2. Albatross 2. You can somewhat throw this move out just about whenever you want. If your opponent is moving a lot, I wouldn't recommend doing it because it does not track anywhere, like I said. And finally, Steve's generic down forward 1. Can do a mid-high. Can do another mid-high in down forward 1-2-1. And if they're ducking, after blocking down forward 1, you can do the mid version to make it a mid-mid string. Not bad at all. And you can cancel his down forward 1 into ducks and stances. So, recycle these moves over and over and over. Do not stop using these moves in the neutral. Obviously, you can incorporate other moves. Like if you really want to capitalize on Steve's move list as a whole, you can throw in a bunch of other moves that I didn't mention, but these are your go-to extremely safe attacks that give you somewhat of a reward, if not an extreme reward on hit, while also being extremely safe. I cannot express enough how safe you have to play with Steve, because there are a lot of low-level Steves that just throw out all the launchers all day. That's not how you play Steve. You can if you want to, but you're not going to be as successful as the Steve player who's constantly throwing out these safe attacks and not giving their opponent a chance to really punish them for anything. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this first installment of the Mastering Steve series. I plan on doing a whole bunch of other videos until I feel that I covered everything with Steve. I'm going to be talking about his combos. I'm going to be talking about his wall pressure. Whatever it is that comes to mind, I'm gonna try my best to talk about it in an extent that means a lot without dragging on too long. So, thank you for watching and stay tuned because there will be more.